Bud Crawford smokes out with a knockout of the year possible candidate, David Avanesyan. Avanesyan hung tough, but Bud Crawford shows once again why he's number one pound for pound on many people's lists, including my own. I don't think it was going into this fight was a question of whether Bud was going to win this fight. It was a matter of, he's about 35. He's had a 13-month layoff. Usually things start to, fighters start to look a little bit more ordinary when these circumstances start to present themselves. So we wanted to see if Crawford, how he was looking under the current circumstances, and if there was any signs of aging. I think Avanesyan really, fought as good a fight as he can fight. Listen, this is a durable guy. He stays in your face. You can see why he upsets certain people, because he knows how to mentally stress you by and also physically stress you by staying in your face like that, cutting off the ring and forcing you to work when you don't want to work. He was forcing Crawford to work. It's just Crawford is so he makes it look so easy, but I'll be honest with you, that fight wasn't as easy as Crawford makes it look. He's just so composed under this pressure, and he knows how to pick his shots so well that he ends up making it look easy. But the way Crawford makes it look against a guy like that is not that easy to do, because Avanesyan, like I said, there's a reason he's had a couple of upset wins on his record. He's not a guy who although he is a guy who's no frills and not that much, doesn't get a lot of hype and doesn't have any razzmatazz or pizzazz to his style. What he does do, he does it well, and it's enough to make him a really strong gatekeeper type of opponent. Now you're saying, why is Crawford fighting gatekeepers? Why is he not fighting Spence? I get it, guys. I want to see a Spence fight too, but there's a lot more involved in that than we realize, and the negotiations do get tough. But I'll say this was a guy after 13 months off. Crawford needs rounds. He needs to get back in there and see how he shakes the rust off and whatnot. And we saw him shaking some of the rust off. Listen, a couple of shots Avanesyan landed a little cleaner than anybody who's a Bud Crawford fan would have wanted them to land. But of course, you're not gonna get in the mud. You're not gonna play in the mud without getting dirty, right? You can't play in the mud and not get dirty. And Avanesyan is the kind of guy, he takes you to play in the mud. He's the kind of guy who, you're not just going to walk right through him. You're going to have to work your way, bring a lunch pail, and kind of work your way through him. But having said that, he got the stoppage, and he got the stoppage a lot sooner than I thought. I thought this was going to go to points or maybe a late round stoppage for Crawford, but Avanesyan was taken down with a sweet counter uppercut followed by a right hook combination. You see how Crawford set this up for the rounds preceding this. Anytime he was throwing that left uppercut from the southpaw stance, he was throwing it and he started to double and triple this uppercut. And it started to play on the mind of Avanesyan, because this uppercut keeps showing up, and it keeps showing up in 2s and 3s at a time, with the same hand in a repetition. And Avanesyan, of course, has that solid guard where he just keeps his hands up real tight. Like I said, he doesn't have any special effects to his defense. He's basically a basic fighter offensively and a basic fighter defensively, but he's got a good chin and he stays in your face all the time, so he stresses you mentally. But of course, you need to have a little bit of wrinkles to your defense if you're going to avoid these uppercuts, because just doing this, and Crawford starts to realize you're going to double and triple up that uppercut, what ends up happening now? He's going to start to land, and you started to see in the round that Avanesyan got knocked out, you started to see for the first time that Crawford was starting to break him down a little bit. You started to see finally Avanesyan start to back off a little bit and not be as pressure happy as he was, and Crawford was starting to step to him now, and it didn't really last too long after that. Listen, I still didn't think that it would end right away once Crawford started to take control of the fight in this way, but not that he wasn't controlling it before, but he was being made to work to control it before, while as in the final round, it looked like Crawford himself started stepping on the gas and started taking it to Avanesyan. And I thought this might last for a few more rounds before Avanesyan finally was broken down, but man, you get the sweetest counter uppercut followed by the right hook. Avanesyan, kept his punches short, on the inside. He didn't want to open up too much and give Crawford the chance to find the opening in between. If you look, really, what did Crawford's counter? It wasn't really a big shot or a shot that left a big opening to counter, but Crawford still finds a little space. He has a sense of anticipation and he has a sense of reflex to still find that little space despite the shot being thrown so shortly by Avanesyan, to get underneath it with the uppercut and then come back with the right hook, which is something that he hadn't really done as much when he was throwing that left uppercut. He hadn't come back with a right hook, so I don't think Avanesyan expected the shot to come from the right side. I think Avanesyan was probably expecting another uppercut or maybe another 2 or 3 uppercuts. It was the way Crawford was starting to throw them. And I think this also made the right hook knockout shot land a lot harder, because you're not looking that way at all, and it's the shot that you don't see that hurts you the most. And I think Avanesyan, maybe in his mind, subconsciously was probably looking to the double uppercut or triple uppercut, and never considered in that moment that a hook would be coming from the other angle, which was exactly what ended up catching him and knocking him out cold, essentially. I personally don't like when referees don't count. I think they should. I never like it, because I've seen guys go down really hard at times, like they're out cold, and then all of a sudden they get up, So I don't like when referees don't count. But Sparkle, he made the right decision here. Avanesyan, I was watching him even after the fight was stopped and Crawford was celebrating. I saw Avanesyan was still it wasn't in a good place. He still had to sit down and kind of checking his senses and all that other stuff. So certainly Avanesyan was not going to be able to continue, even if there had been a 10 count in that knockdown. Certainly a knockout of the year candidate. I mean, you have a couple of knockouts of the year candidates now as we're getting to the end of the year. I mean, what do you got? You have Plant and Darrell is a pretty good knockout. Obviously, Deontay Wilder is always going to be in the knockout sweepstakes, knockout of the year sweepstakes if he's fighting. And that knockout of Robert Helenius is certainly a big one. What do you guys think? What do you guys think is a knockout of the year contender? What do you guys think of Bud Crawford? We could talk about, will the Spence fight happen or won't it happen? I don't know. Also, I heard Errol Spence got into a car accident yesterday. Although, he's very, very fortunate. I mean, last time was probably his fault. I'm hearing this time it was a 14-year-old unlicensed driver driving the wrong way and hit him head on. I mean, that's some scary stuff, man. That's some scary stuff. But for what I'm hearing, I think he's recovering okay, and he's okay. So you know what? I'm like everybody else, man. I'm waiting for Crawford and Spence to fight as well, and I don't know if this fight happens. But again, I'm also the kind of guy who wants Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz to start appearing in more and more big time fights if Bud and Spence are not going to fight each other. Okay, that's it. I'm ready to move on to the next generation of hot welterweights, hot shot welterweights, who may end up fighting each other if we start to bang on the doors now, right? So we start to create the hype now. So let them start to fight the bigger names, and let them start to show how good they are. Because if Bud and Spence aren't going to fight, man, I'm not sitting here getting dejected over this fight not happening. There's other fights that can be made even within their own weight class. There's guys that are being made to wait, like Virgil Ortiz and Jaron, and it's just because this community affair that everybody has accepted, and that Spence and Crawford has to happen. And then we cannot look at the welterweight division without looking at Spence and Crawford. Hey, listen, bro, if Spence and Crawford are not going to fight, I want to see the next guys start getting their shots. I want to see Boots start getting his shots. I want to see Virgil Ortiz start getting his shots. That's it. I'm ready to move on to the next generation. I don't need to keep this waiting game going. And I understand that there are factors that are many times hard to understand for us because we're not in the negotiations. But nonetheless, as a fan, I would like to still move on from that fight, because there's other fights that can be made in the welterweight division. There's other young fighters, phenoms, that you can start to be looked at in the welterweight division. That kind of serves our appetite for violence and top level talent, even in the same weight class, let alone in the whole sport. So let's see what happens. Because if this fight doesn't happen soon, I'm ready to move on from it. Crawford looks good. Knocks the rust off in a sharp boxing performance. I had the right guy in front of him in terms of being a winnable fight, but also the right guy in front of him as far as a guy who was going to come to make him work and knock the rust off. And that's exactly what Bud Crawford did last night. You watch him working through the paces and the rounds, and he ended things like a champion does. And a very workmanlike performance by Bud Crawford. Cerebral performance as always, also as well. And that's it. I'm Paulie Malignaggi with Paulie TV. Let me know your comments. Let me know what you think about this fight. Does Spence and Crawford happen? What do you think of Boots and Ennis? Of Boots and Virgil Ortiz? Do we start to just pay attention to these guys if Spence and Crawford don't make this fight? Remember, we have Spence versus Thurman coming up. Let's not get too much ahead of ourselves. Keith Thurman, I don't know. He hasn't looked as hungry to me of late. Obviously life happens, and you get a little less violent when other things are going on in your life. You see the guys start to that mean streak starts to wear off on him. I always saw Keith as a meaner guy in the ring before, but let's see what he's ready to bring to the table against Errol Spence this month as well. And that's it. I believe Spence and Thurman fighting this month. I believe they are fighting this month, and I don't think that accident played a part in anything. But anyway, Let me know what you think. Let me know who you think is the knockout of the year as well, because this is certainly end of the year time. We can start talking about, you know, best knockouts of the year, best fights of the year, and all that other stuff. So let me know what you think. Certainly, if this is a candidate for a knockout of the year. Paulie Malignaggi, and this is Paulie TV.